Hello everybody and welcome back to QuipScope. It's the show where we talk about a game that's just come out or is coming out. My name is Ben.
And my name is James.
James, what have you been playing this week?
Oh my god, I'm playing the game that literally no one is talking about because they're distracted by Horizon, but
Horizon what?
Horizon
Who?
Zero Yawn. Not even the right one.
Forbidden
I've been
waste
playing.
of time, sorry.
We're getting in there early.
It doesn't matter.
I've been playing Total War Warhammer 3. Long awaited. It's taken them 5 years to get out this sequel.
Oh.
So it's like the finale of the trilogy of Warhammer flavored Total War games.
Okay.
For anybody, I mean, I imagine if anybody's like watching or listening they're kind of familiar or at least interested in Total War in that respect, but it's kind of like a fantasy strategy game, and it's that sort of iconic Total War style that they've had for like 20 odd years now.
Right.
But
But it's not just a reskin. It goes deeper than that.
Oh, no. There's a lot of extra new content in here, which is insane. So it's that sort of thing where you've got a turn-based campaign map, and then you've got the real-time battles, and that's the sort of gist of it. It's not a sort of traditional RTS, but it's not like a typical like turn-based strategy either. This game is based on like the fantasy Warhammer rather than you'll see a lot of like Warhammer 40k, which is all sort of sci-fi stuff. Screw that, sack that off completely. It's all about like
Lizard
orcs
men.
and goblins.
I was a lizard men guy.
Yes, lizard men.
Yeah.
They are fantastic. So they were in the second game. They were quite interesting.
Okay. But not in this one?
Well, we'll get onto that like a little bit
Okay.
later in detail, but there is something that may not be here at release that maybe some people were excited about. So basically the Mortal Empires style thing from Total War 2, Total War Warhammer 2, where you could play as basically any race from the previous games in one big campaign map. We'll touch on it now. They currently don't have that in this game, and that's going to be a big draw for people. So it's just the new factions at the minute. But this one, it's all about chaos, and it's all about, I mean, it's always all about chaos, really, if you're kind of semi-aware of the Warhammer shtick. Chaos being the nasty dudes from like another plane of existence coming in, ruining everybody's time, basically. Yeah, rude.
Bunch of rude boys.
Yeah. This kind of follows it's got a little bit of story, like quite a bit of flavor to set things up. Obviously, it's not, a story-focused kind of game. You create that as you go anyway. But it does a lot of setup there. So basically, one of the main factions, and I'll sort of touch on those in a bit. One of the main factions, Kislev, very inspired by Russia. So Kislev, their big bear god called Urson.
Nice.
Yeah, he went missing a while ago and is, either presumed dead, but is actually sort of heavily wounded. And he's stuck in the Chaos Wastes, which is something that, or the Chaos Realm, I should say, somewhere that you can't get to at the minute.
You don't want to be stuck
there. No, you don't want to be stuck there because you ain't getting back. So the game does quite an interesting thing for new players. A pretty good like tutorial, which is like just this prologue thing that basically sets out like how these sort of events have transpired up to the start of the main game, where you would pick any sort of faction and go on from there. Yeah, you're a corrupted prince that you're not corrupted, but you end up trying to find this bear, end up corrupted, and then become like one of the big chaos demon fellows. And yeah, I should say about like the tutorial as well, actually, like it covers a lot of basics, which is good for people that, I mean, this game is like the third in a trilogy. They've layered so many sort of mechanics on top of mechanics that it's actually nice to have something. I mean, I was just like, oh, I know how to move a unit, come on. But it's really good for like anybody that is interested in getting into it.
Because I think it's just sort of assumed, isn't it, in a lot of RTS titles that you come in with a base level of knowledge. And for a lot of people, that might just not be there.
Yeah, so like even things like, sort of selecting multiple units, sort of clicking and dragging. Yeah, and that's quite handy. The new factions. So we've got, this might not make much context to you personally, but So we've got Kislev, as I mentioned. Yeah. Strong sort of Russian vibes. Got an Ice Queen. Lots of sort of beautiful magic spells focused around sort of slowing down and ice, as you imagine, and stuff like that. Grand Cafe, or Cafe. Grand Caf is based on Imperial China. Kislev and Grand Cafe haven't really been built up much by, as far as I'm aware, by Games Workshop. They have basically given them Creative Assembly a bit of free reign to go wild with this, and both factions are fantastic. Then you've got the Chaos factions, which is basically, so you've got like one faction dedicated to each of the 4 gods. So you've got Khorne, which is like blood god, rage, hatred, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Tzeentch, which is like a bit of a deceiver, sort of a changer. Nurgle, who is like the lord of decay and disease and that. Nurgle. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Oh, there's some of his units are just fantastic. There are these little Nurglings, and they're just like just a bunch of horrible little things grouped up into one thing, and they're all just mucking around, like doing handstands and stuff. Delightful. And the final god is Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, or basically the naughty one, the god of naughty stuff.
Okay, the deadly sins.
Yes, exactly. Interestingly, you can play as like any one of those factions that's dedicated to a single god, but one of the big things, and I'll probably show a lot of footage here, is playing as like the Legion of Chaos, I believe it was, which is basically like Chaos Undivided, which was what it was called in the first game. Everybody like in one. It's a very unusual setup with those guys, because it's kind of like you can add in different body parts, and you unlock a lot of different like body parts for this horrible like winged demon creature. Yeah, and it almost becomes like a weird sort of RPG element to it, where you can basically like spec them out to fulfill different roles, basically. The final faction, which is an early adopter bonus, is the Ogre Kingdoms, and they are very interesting. Their entire thing is just they want meat. They want all of the meat all of the time.
That's their food motivated.
Yeah, and I can relate to that.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of how the game itself actually goes, I mean, there's a lot of good. I want to sort of mention this, even though it sounds like quite a lot of smaller things, but quality of life changes. The game itself doesn't feel much different from the previous, which is a good thing. Yeah, there's just like a lot of smaller things that really sort of make the experience a lot slicker, and you can tell that they've spent a lot of time on this, which is fantastic. Yeah. The UI is slicker. You've got this sort of smart formation kind of system that I believe they brought in from one of their other Total War games called Three Kingdoms. So it remembers like your past layouts when you're setting out the guys in the actual battle map. You've got like idle units that are clearly defined now, whereas that was an absolute nightmare for me personally. Just trying to find like once the chaos of battle is like happening, you don't know what the hell's going on. But in your unit sort of bar at the bottom, you've got like a little ZZZ sleepy like icons on all the ones that are idle, so that's quite nice.
That's good.
So yeah, plenty of other things like slow motion options when spell casting, and alliances as well. Alliances can provide quests. You get like alliance points to spend on if you set up an outpost with a allied faction, then you can potentially recruit some of their units as well, which makes things interesting. In terms of other things, so the big changes that they have really sort of focused on is this whole these sort of survival battles, or like almost wave defense battles, which is quite a weird sort of thing to add in to like the Total War formula, really. It's traditionally you've either got a field battle or a siege battle that you will have to take a town. And speaking of siege battles, they are a lot more diverse now as well. That sort of ties into this. So with the survival thing, you've got to capture like several objectives, and then you have these little kind of like a wave defense thing where you can build up walls in certain bits, build up towers. And it's a weird one. It does feel quite hectic. Okay. But it's interesting that they're trying to mix things up, basically. Yeah. So that's nice.
But James, is it good?
Now, saving that towards the end there. Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right.
It is very good from what I have played so far. Obviously, it's one of those games that any single campaign can last sort of like tens of hours.
Yeah.
So kind of just scratching the surface here. But in terms of like the small little changes and the sort of bigger things, it doesn't seem like they've changed too much drastically. So there's a reason why I mentioned like a specific battle and then just the factions. I mean, the new factions themselves are all fantastic.
Yeah.
It looks great. It's, you know, the performance is okay.
Right.
Apparently you can run it on quite a sort of reasonable hardware for PC. The going back to the unit variety, it's fantastic. Like, they've really sort of continued what they were doing with Total War Warhammer 2, which was like a lot of like incremental DLC and also free updates, just building up like different mechanics to make things interesting. You've got like, I played one battle with Grand Kafai where the general unit could turn into a dragon, like you know, sort of like an Asian inspired dragon. So like, yeah, weird stuff like that they've added in that is super cool. Like the battle mechanics as well, again with Grand Kafai. You have bonuses based on like some units are yin and some units are yang, and yeah, so some will be like melee units, some will be like ranged units. If you keep them quite close together, then they get a bonus, because it's, you know, about all that balance. So it's certain mechanics kind of encouraging you to sort of play in different play styles, really, and that is quite interesting as well. I think they've mixed things up enough in this new game to be really quite interesting.
Okay, excellent. Well, when is it out, James?
Check your news feeds. It's out right now. What?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
And how much is it, James?
It is, well, that is the question. I should have written down the price, because it is free on Game Pass for PC.
That's what I was leading into. It's free on Game Pass on PC. So if you have Game Pass Ultimate, right,
yes,
you can just get Game Pass for PC.
I think you can get Game Pass for PC
well,
as well, but Ultimate includes the whole package as well.
then you can go and play it right now as part of your Game Pass subscription on PC.
Absolutely. It is also available on Steam and on the Epic Games Store, and sort of alluding to earlier when I mentioned about like having all of the races from previous games available to play in this game. So that's maybe the one downside that people might want to sort of steer clear of.
Right.
Right now is the fact that that's not out there. So I believe they were going to call it like Immortal Empires, because like the last game was called Mortal Empires. Massive campaign map. Everybody, like, you play as like any of the ones that from the games that you owned previously. That's coming, I don't know when.
Right, but it's not there now.
But it's not there now. So if you want, you know, if you're thinking about just holding back a little bit, if that's really the big sort of draw for you, it's one of those. It's something to watch out for, really.
Okay. Well, James, there's just enough time for Total War. Total Warhammer 3. More like Total War. Total Warhammer Yeast.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Right?
Total War Warhammer 3. More like Total War Warhammer 3 on Game Pass.
Okay. Free. Yeah. Okay, nice. That works. That's excellent.
Yeah,
well, there we are. Thanks for watching / listening, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Goodbye.